Hi, folks. I wanted to give you a little video and a little heads up about something. I am asking you guys to go ahead and get registered for GLO-BUS. Excuse me, I got a big, huge screen here and I'm trying to get everything where I can see it. So trying to get everybody registered for GLO-BUS, and I was logging in today to record this video, and I noticed that the only one of you out of 36 that's registered so far is Grace Farrell. So Grace, congratulations. I'm giving you 10 bonus points on your exam today for being first. You know, the early bird gets the worm. I'm not so sure that anybody wants any worms, and I've always heard that the second mouse is the one who gets the cheese, but at any rate, Grace, I see you and I appreciate you being proactive. So when you go into GLO-BUS, as I showed you in class today, you're going to click on the new students sign up, and you'll see a different dashboard than I see. This is my dashboard that shows all of the industries. And then, of course, if you go in, you'll see all of my archived industries for all the years that I've been running this thing. And that only goes back, I guess, to 2017. And then there's some more beyond that. But I could, of course, pull up any of those industries anytime I wanted to. But right now, I'm only running your industry, and we're on practice year 6. And when I pull that up, it shows me all of the companies. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to run company J. And for me, I just have to click on launch decision/reports app. And when I do that, it pulls up the screen that I shared with you this morning. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of walk you through each of the screens and kind of talk through implementing a chosen strategy by going through each of the screens. I want you guys to understand what you're doing and try to tie everything together with your chosen strategy. So if there is a step one to being the top management team of a company, it is that you have to decide what your strategy is going to be. Remember chapter 4 where we talked about quarters, generic strategy framework, and you've got your broad customer base or your focused customer base, and you've got your basis for creating value, and that's either cost leadership or differentiation. For this example, I'll probably do cost leadership because it's just simply the easiest one to understand. I'm going to make some references to chapter 4. And I'm going to talk about some things that you have to do in order to be the cost leader. And I'm going to show you how to do those things as we go through the screens. I'll try to keep these videos very short and very much to the point, but I'm planning to walk through each of the decision screens, and it might take me a couple of days to get through all of them. And I also want to walk through the scoring methodologies to show you how things are accounted for. So how do you actually earn your points? So I'll walk you through each of those and give you some idea of the reports that are going to be available to you. Again, I'm going to try to keep them real short, but maybe it's a good thing if I just dive off into this product design screen first. So as I mentioned just now, I'm going to implement the cost leadership strategy. And what cost leadership is try to get your cost as low as humanly possible while preserving an appropriate value for your customers. So you want to make sure that your quality and your price come in an appropriate range, right? And we can define value as price divided by our quality rating. And as I mentioned to you, for your action capture camera, your average price is $225 and your average PQ rating is 4.0 stars. So our value is $56.25 per star. On the drone, we've got a 4-star product. A little harder to calculate. I'm not going to try to do that one in my head, but the drone sells for an average price of $1075, and it's a 4-star product. So you're somewhere in the neighborhood of $267 and some change, I think. Don't quote me on that, but okay, that's your value that you're delivering. When you're trying to get your costs down, what you need to understand is not all resources are created equally. Some resources are more valuable than others. Some resources have differing inputs from others, and some resources give differing outputs. And so I'm going to group our inputs for the camera into a couple of things, like image sensor size, and LCD display screen and image quality. Those are kind of the guts, the meat and potatoes of our action capture camera, and we'll call those our core components. Now, when we get into the other things, our photo modes and our enhancements of our product and our performance features and the number of models, those are what we'd call brand specific, okay? So I'm going to call these core components and brand specific. And I'm going to give you a little tip, and this will be how I know whether or not you actually have watched the videos. These core components up here, these three things are very expensive for the quality that you get for them. So for instance, image sensor size, I'm just going to show you one of these. I can drop my image sensor size from 11 millimeter down to 9 millimeter. That's 2 notches, and I only give up 0.2 stars in quality. Okay, so I just changed it by clicking the drop down. We go from 4 stars with a cost of $154.73 down to 3.8 stars with a cost of $151.12. Then I can put a couple of dollars into some of my brand specific components, and getting my image rating back up to 4 stars, my product assembly cost actually comes down from where it was. It's $150.73. Again, all I did was I changed my image sensor from an 11 to a 9, and I changed my accessories from a 10 to a 12. I took my cost from $154.73 down all the way to $150.73. So I'm making the same quality product at a much lower cost, $4 per unit. It doesn't sound like a much lower cost until you realize that you're predicted to sell about 900,000 of those units. So 900,000 times $4 per unit is a lot like $3.6 million where I come from. So I'm going to just make some adjustments in the way that I'm making my action capture camera by reducing some of those core components and increasing some of these brand specific components. And I'm going to get my quality back up to what I believe is an acceptable level, back up to about 4 stars. And the reason I say 4 stars is acceptable is that's what our customers are accustomed to buying. Okay, so I'm going to reduce my inputs. I'm going to change around the way that I'm actually making the product. And what I'm trying to do is get the lowest possible camera production and assembly cost. One thing that you need to know is research and development is a pretty big cost of our assembly components. We're spending $20 million here on product research and development. And if you do the math on that with 900,000 units, that's actually a pretty big spend. Research and development at $20 million is $22.25 per unit. I mentioned in class this morning that research and development is also worthwhile, that it helps us to produce more cheaply, more quickly, those kind of things. But one of the things that Chapter 4 tells you is if you're going to run a cost leadership strategy, you need to minimize your research and development expenditures. Now, you can define for yourself what you want that to mean, but I don't think that $20 million is minimizing research and development. So I dropped that to $6 million. It doesn't affect my performance quality rating, and my costs go all the way down to $134.21. And if you'll pay attention, I'm going to get those costs even lower than that. One reason I'm really comfortable reducing the research and development expenditure down to $6 million is, as I mentioned, and as you'll read in the participants guide, you've been making this camera for 5 years now. This is your 6th year of operation. And it just really doesn't make sense that you would spend $20 million in research and development on something you've been making for 5 years already, and only spend $15 million on something that you've only been making for 2 years, right? You see the difference there? So I'm comfortable reducing that spend, okay? So I've redesigned my action capture camera and I've got my cost way down. So I'm going to stop this video right here and I'll pick up and talk a little bit about camera marketing in the next video.